Zami Obi, oh, witness box, Michele. The nipa jina witness box, no, it's gonna surprise you. Winning baby. And now, me no can say, and yeah, Deputy Attorney General, Amayati say, Ghana Phobi, Ede, a court to say they need interpretation. Say beya as a President John Dramani Mahama bit me a third term or not. Right? Inti Justice Ram said but was say Azubila E. Salam versus the Attorney General. One of Markov case, you know. Kenneth Kranchen so didn't so and a Ganiu Al Hassan so didn't so. The Attorney General say I can confirm that these cases are pending in the Supreme Court on the broad question. Then the question they say whether the 2 presidential limit term clause in 66 or Article 66 of the Constitution means A, 2 terms back to back only, or B, any 2 terms, whether back to back or not. What in the question I say? I'm here to explain it. Maybe we need to sometimes do this as a people. Until the people in witness box, they cross-examine, they be some questions. So nipa me saying, at the court to say, based on Article 66 of Ghana's Constitution, Omoko Kobisa say, President John Dramani Mahama, ebetimi ako another term and I say ontimi enko. That is the kind of question they've gone back to the Supreme Court for interpretation. What I say. So, also per the Constitution of our country, now what we all know and understand, they say president be oko 2 terms be asa. But Constitution, you know, and sheda mana nye clear say 2 terms, you know, di ankasa na change the 2 terms. And I've made some points here that I wanted us to all discuss it. And that is something that we're going to discuss today. Na fi de yape ne puma sibere because ade a minim say Ghana for dodo na no actually bi mu adwen. What I say. Enti teacher ni Gani o teacher ni ena de asem akọ court ena other statesmen nipa two bi nso akọ support no ama yehu say okay yenku bisa question we say president bitimi ato so ana president intimi ento so because constitution no e can 2 terms but one can say bia ukọ baako na mfini ho bibi beto a na usan ba utimi to so ana say untimi ento so. The constitution is not that clear based on all these kind of things. So that is something we are going to ask ourselves. Until my jotted down some questions we have a person yebisa yehon, and that is something we are going to check today, right? Until the question and they say I'm question into screen so now if I don't know if I had the question on my show here today. So I'm two screens, so I think that I can quickly put it on our screen. The puma sibre because we need to do all these kind of things as a people, no. Nema bi wo ha ebia na sebe o wadwi mu no enhye da nye clear ma ana obi wo ha onim sa ade koro no ehia no enti na charges na ide ba beto ho no amefa yinto ha sei na amefa screen ento ha na he charges na e ba ba address me pa in the comment section so obetime de wadwen kire aba enti charges before the political court today na me no yin be di hu komo say 1 attempting to reinterpret Ghana's presidential limit terms no is somebody attempting to seek some interpretation making sense and as a thing. Is it going to create political uncertainty over the 2028 election? Because the President John Dramani Mahama say maybe based on interpretation of the Constitution in the Babano. Or best saying at what to be ma. But you when you be home and when ninja home. Then are we testing Ghana's constitutional safeguards? That also we're also going to address those kind of people, those kind of questions. And as it say, country no so no ye wo urgent problems be as more person this hard win e be yi adwen e free so anase den. What I say because if president I in a clear some time ago say onye na adwen say otoaso biem. It is say na me no can say if somebody takes it to court, not say President John Dramani Mahama e meka ho hwe. Is it say Ghana no some people sit somewhere and think so okay nkrofo we yenku yi o madwen fira dey be so na fi dey yemfa mbiri momani so anase den. That is something that we're also going to discuss today. What I say. And the people of Ghana versus the third term agenda of the president. And I never told send you so never the home. If I join the comment section, so question be wait me at the Abana Fide. Many women at the home and come because sometimes the I want to see a Charlie. Ubi Chira, Aviana, or Shada, and Tiasia Papa. Or question be a metal basi. See, meet me and more my bench as well. Meet me at us. I'm part of the questions I by Emrana Afide ansana yatwaso. Ni wienso a NPP won say no moto baby. Charlie ababo ankrofo ne bro mo hono. Bidu baby just NPP party ne ye guru na de kwenye ponche. How many times does JM have to say that he is not going another term? Yeah, that is a question I think. But for now, the Nipa Binum they are called for interpretation. So as to say, the interpretation be a bebiano. JM is ready to seek another term or not. That is also something different that we haven't gotten there yet. What I say? Inti a binum na ede sa anima we are called court for interpretation. And then according to Deputy Attorney General, Supreme Court will take its time to bring out the interpretation. So that is something that we think say we as people know. So you see a two year say na the Constitution says clearly that a president can have 2 consecutive terms. This term of Mahama's is not consecutive, so he can actually do another term without changing the Constitution. Well, President Cook, that is the interpretations of Constitution, because people are not actually clear with it. And I think say Supreme Court ebetime abring finality to it. Send will be or sebe or all of us will come to the term say okay, say na Constitution eka, because I know say nipadodo nana ente omonhase based on these kind of things. What I say, ebia send ya what I say no. Because Article 66(2) of the Constitution states say a person shall not be elected president of Ghana. Article 66(2) say a person shall not be elected president of Ghana for more than 2 terms, but it does not expressly use the word consecutive. So what I say? Inti 2 terms in the air clear, but say it say back to back and I say back to back, it didn't actually say it. So that is, I think, the kind of question before the apex court. So the question we're going to ask today is say, does more than 2 terms require further interpretation? That is the kind of question I think say ibisa. So Deputy Attorney General is the counselor box mu ene. So the question I think say President Cook would be about that. What precise words or phrase in Article 66(2) is ambiguous enough to require interpretation by the Supreme Court? The Senate Article 66(2). DNA will say we need to go to the Supreme Court for interpretation. President Cook then understand then aba. So maybe I understand it differently. I don't think say President John Dramani Mahama should seek another term. I don't support that idea. That is my viewpoint. I can't say he's not performing, but my view no. When you 2 acquire, I be a president team no. Obeti me perform. Na ma contest me we near on fast I be in mame. It's enough. Me ma view no nyansa any nipa ba ko petim. So we can use the ideas of a different person and then add mine. Then we progress as a people. I believe that is also something we can also do as a people, right? And you always, and I say, we need these kind of things because when you are near many people and they maintain about mine because all over the African continent, and one will say, President John Dramani Mahama country and say, based on the Constitutional Review Committee's recommendation, Yebabe extended the presidential and the parliamentary terms by 1 additional year, making it 5. And he say, can I say, President Eddie Kiako 8 years, we know was or call another 1 or call 5. I say they misunderstanding, a lot of misunderstanding. Beba, I am not saying say Supreme Court no deba, I will not abide by that. I do agree with that 100%. Decision of the Supreme Court, I will 100% agree with it. But as to say, we are in that position. Say, are we in that position to do that? That is something we need to also understand. What I say. And then another question we need to ask ourselves, also President Cook, you brought that particular consecutive. But why did the Constitution not use that word consecutive? What I say. So a person shall not have or shall not serve more than 2 consecutive terms. Right? And was a very, very simple thing. So the question is, has the framers of the Constitution intend to prohibit only 3 terms? That they could have written, a person shall not serve more than 2 consecutive terms. But they did not expressly say that. So why did that happen? Right? So what I'm doing now, I say, would interpreting Article 66 to mean 2 consecutive terms require the court to insert the word consecutive into the Constitution? So now, as President Cook, you understand it now. If the Supreme Court says, okay, wait me there, that means they are now about to incorporate the word consecutive into the Constitution. What I say. So that is where many people do not actually understand it. In the comment section, say, if you say what I'm saying is not clear enough, you can also say it. Frederick Tego, Bibi Aboko there. And that's it. Mau TV, me pacho link na me send you on Saka and answer on Sanka. You can send me a message in the comment section. Send it by Emily, Bibi clear. If I wow, me who dear mo dibiano. If you have any question in the comment section, also be me day about because we build this as a family platform. Near do be a big court witness books from the cross examine. Until the Deputy Attorney General and the never witness box on. Sure, we say, a friend in Munufie Political Comedy Court. Sana, my friend. So we put you in the witness box and then we cross-examine you to get the ingredients out of you. We are not trying to say I'm a judge, no. But I cross-examine you based on things my jury, you seek from us. That is exactly the same thing we cross-examine people to get answers. Then at the end of the day, we bring our own verdict. Right? That is how we do it. So can the judiciary interpret effectively procedure a 3rd-term presidential term? Potentially, maybe yes. So supposing the Supreme Court holds that Article 66 to prohibit only more than 2 terms, a former president who has already won 2 elections but spent time outside office should or could then argue that the interpretation resets the Constitution on the constitutional calculations. But you only may have you say bro no doors so wait my country. My main timber from na explaining you. Can the court interpret Article 66 in a manner that permits a 3rd election without effectively rewriting the 2-term limits? What am I say? Court need the interpretation biba. That's the interpretation in Sikise yenko yard full. Do you think that is the right thing to do in the society? What am I saying? Because sometimes we need to do things like that.
Order in the court.
Exactly. So listen to it very, very carefully.
Order in the court.
All right. So my kind of question be able to watch you so but you to me at the Abba. All those President Mahama akasa for home pain. The national chairman of NDC, General Mosquito, akasa for home pain said no, 2 terms is 2 terms. But now it has appeared in the Supreme Court. So we are seeking the Supreme Court to interpret what actually that means. Right? And then, given the filing of these cases, would a fresh and unequivocal statement from President Mahama help remove political uncertainty? President John Dramani Mahama previously, said there be on case or could be. By now, I know say I could peer court. I'm a deputy attorney general, so they're going to push the court to bring the interpretation. But it seems that President John Dramani Mahama and Kasabim. Do you think that he's in support for or he's against Adiako court? That is something that we also need to understand. So politically, it is still legitimate to ask whether a renewed statement will calm public anxiety, particularly because the litigation directly concerns presidential eligibility. So some people are saying, President John Dramani Mahama, Sadi Yode, until I won't Kasai, or you didn't test the Supreme Court interpretation, but now the Bewum Kafo, so we could be. Said Supreme Court interpretation, Naba. Now President John Dramani Mahama ka say okay, Supreme Court account dey make obi ma. But you dey na we can. Over support it and now support it in the comment section for wadwen kire. Ebra.
Order in the court.
Exactly. And I'm fine. What you say? Charlie, I'm gonna do. Then the last question, or maybe the last question, maybe say, is this interpretation a neutral constitutional principle that will apply equally to John Mahama, Nanado, and any future president? If I just say, I'm Branka Nanado, then go for it. Akokora guy, Nanado show boy, our power, any day we call court in the Supreme Court, can say, oh, it will be our free will to go. Nanado can't over qua pattern, our interpretation be say, John Mahama, they are okay. Now, then, dear Ponipa, Nanado, then go for it. As a man for Suru Uluman is a Uluman guy, also Uluman, what could tell you away the and it's a Ghana for Admia Mombasa, Ubi Angela and Tassie. It's Uluman guy also for Argent Celebra. There was Uluman guy also say, walk out against the former President Kufo Uluman, what he has Akra, but you also Argent and the Fabra. So the question is what precise declaration are we seeking now? President Cook say different, say different. So what precise declaration are we seeking now? Say then because we need to understand. And then who are their lawyers? Nipa mi ansana ko hono. Why na your lawyer for say koba say sabi omo lawyer for yine NDC lawyer for yini momu ya then na wadwen kire be ye. Pacho ubetimi daba. Is any plaintiff connected to a political organization? Ekobat is any permission back and crunching and so for no. But you bit make us some NDC for and so many info. We need to understand all these kind of questions, right? And somebody be that is how we need to do it. So, what evidence would distinguish an independent constitutional action from political coordinated litigation? That is the kind of question we need to also ask, right? It is a nipa na yakosa omala nyina Ekobat is omo nyina NDC for na omo de omo nyina court. And I feel the Supreme Court and I can say Chief Justice as I got to be no saying rule say, oh, green light. Timmy Twatwa. But you're saying and so in the comment section about your waiting there or venture Abba, right? Hey, as I know the more you think I can say I go on and share a young with this Mama Mentias here. And I'm about my as I know more you think I go on and say one test yeah. But the same Mama Mentias here. Sister George Nabafo. But I want to say, Mama Mentiasi, now feed me who say, Richard said, the NPP is afraid that if President Mahama stands for 20 times for the NDC, no one can beat him. Exactly. So Richard is so there out the buy, I don't know. Betty Max say, even with the youth of Ghana, we support for him to go for the third term. Oh, really? So you think you support the idea that President John Dramani Mahama should go for a third term? Oh, I see.
Order in the court.
All right, President Cook, no problem. I understand. India glory at so. At I say, nay, the Attorney General, Deputy Attorney General, and then never general must and cross examine. So the question is, if the court rules that 2 terms means 2 terms in total, and then I'll can. About the judgments will permanently close the door to a third term elected term and apply regardlessly of whether the term were consecutive. What I say, so you release the 2 terms to 2 terms there, it will close a lot of doors. And it will constrain every former 2-term president. There's a President Mills Tasia Untimemba, President Rollins Tasia Untimemba, Ira John Jacob Kufo, Nes Untimemba, Nanado Danko Kufo Untimemba, the same way no say President Mahama Wiene Untimemba BM. If the court rules in that kind of direction. But if the court rules that only consecutive term counts, the judgment could permit former 2-term president to return after an interruption, right? It is a quarter way there, there's a GM.
Order in the court.
That's what I say. There's any or the conquer.
Shamak Israel Yehu.
What I say. And the match about which me bompire guso.
We a hata et.
There's a basa there, there's a mom support no. Chama to me a bompire my.
Shamak Israel Yehua. Ela henu Yehua ekat. We a hata et Yehua. Elohika bika luvika. Uvika navashika. uvika miyopika. Told ya.
Told ya sha.
Told ya.
Told ya sha. Chama why are there 20th of so chama won't be judgment in about pacho make the date. Town here in view. Mo say ku tu sheda mo say group we. But mo fa yeni agro. Asemo. It's a 4-year term mandate in the yetiase. Ibisi president and sign ko biem. Ibisi my president and sign to also. And then the Supreme Court at the bar, Charlie, saying our yetiase. That is something we need to discuss, right? Wajuma no. And then was here the wajuma ba. Enti mamenfa question we into her. Mamenfa me question we say into body so. Na me say saying na monso madwenjere etie na mepacho in the comment section no ubetimi de madwenjere aba. Let me just try to do it this way because we say ni agoro no mum kama pa what I say na we show we if any ya media agoro sa don pese ye no this way amenya de kese. What does Article 66 mean? Maximum of 2 terms in total. Maximum of 2 consecutive terms. The Constitution needs amendment. Wait for the Supreme Court. In the comment section, wait till the Wadren Aba. Who said President Cook did the need the camera that now they know now they about to go. Let's reset it, right? Yeah, reset it. Then reset it. So the ordinary test strongly points to a long-term maximum of 2 terms, but we must examine the plaintiff as well, right? Now, if they are building cases out of that, into Mr. Senate Supreme Court decision be baby ano, yema adwemu and now fine na yemfa nesa. Sene be ya emfa menteme ho asibia emma channel A Munufie Political Comedy Court. So we brought Deputy Attorney General to court. Pacho Tobo.
Order in the court.
Exactly. Nti ye to aso pacho ene show is na da meka no ye wo nipa omoboa yen na omhye yasene bidie boga esi bidie a ehye a empumwisie bidie a ehyeche pepacho so oyo bia ono aduane o school feed no o restaurant o efi ankasa kwa no so o bia ono aduane na o yusu bidie nkwa de a pepacho fa omo number ya eda screen na afede ono omoni dwa emom